We all thought Silo's big mystery was the fire, the cleaning, the scars on Juliette's face that nobody in that room is willing to explain to her. But episode 1 just buried something much bigger in plain sight. A cloud that shouldn't exist 352 years in the past, and a burned scrap of paper sitting in a bowl of soup 352 years later. Those two moments are not a coincidence. They're the same weapon used on two different women in two different centuries. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how they connect, why the algorithm needs Juliette to never find out, and who most likely wrote that note. Let's crack this open, piece by piece. Quick context, because episode 1 splits its runtime almost exactly down the middle, and both halves are doing the same job from two different centuries. In the present, 3 months after the rebellion, Juliette wakes up as mayor of Silo 18 with almost nothing left in her head. No memory of Silo 17, the flood, the crowbar, or the deal that got her home alive. Just scars nobody will explain, and a staff feeding her a script every single morning. In the past, 3.5 centuries earlier, we follow a Navy pilot named Charlotte Keene and her brother, a young congressman named Daniel. Charlotte is paranoid on purpose, switching train lines, changing her look, checking for tails. She's tangled in something classified, tied to a retaliatory strike near Iran, that her brother isn't supposed to know is happening tonight. Keep both threads in your head, because Chapter 1 is where they collide in the sky. Charlotte's squadron launches off a carrier, climbs to 50,000 feet to finish a strike already underway, and then they fly straight into a cloud that has no business being there. Not weather, not smoke. A dense, silver, almost liquid mass that coats the cockpit glass and forces its way into the engines. Within seconds, her wingmen are falling out of the sky, and Charlotte barely survives the crash. Everything after that moment is a blank in her memory. Here's the detail worth sitting with. This isn't shot like a natural disaster. It behaves like something engineered, a self-replicating swarm built to disable rather than simply destroy. Fans have already started calling it a nanite storm online, and that reading tracks with everything the show has hinted at since Season 2. The outside world wasn't ruined by an accident. It was ruined by a tool somebody built on purpose and lost control of. And that's the real horror underneath the spectacle. A cloud like that doesn't just end a war. It gives whoever holds the technology a permanent excuse to justify anything that comes next, including, eventually, locking 10,000 people underground and telling them it was the only way to survive. Charlotte wakes up in a clinic that specializes in memory disorders. Her brother walks in expecting his sister. What he gets is someone who looks straight through him because she genuinely doesn't know who he is. That is, almost beat for beat, Juliette's morning in the present timeline. Same blank stare, same missing years, same family members standing there getting nothing back. The show isn't hiding this parallel. It's daring you to notice it, and it's telling you something important. Whoever designed this world learned, 3.5 centuries ago, that erasing a person's memory is a far cleaner weapon than killing them. Now here's the moment most first-time viewers let slide right past them. Robert Sims walks Juliette to the airlock and hands her a clean, simple story. Bernard's suit failed, the gas got him. His body was cremated. End of story. Juliette has no memory to check it against, so she just nods along. But the show already told us. Bernard survived that fire. And it's Sims himself who finishes the job with his own hands. Not with gas, not with an accident. A deliberate killing, dressed up afterward as fate. Why does that distinction matter so much? Because it tells you exactly what kind of administration is running Silo 18 now. This isn't a regime cleaning up after a disaster. It's a regime manufacturing the story of a disaster in real time to remove the one man who could contradict it. And Camille doesn't flinch. She's already deleting footage before Sims even finishes the confession. Two people, one household, both fluent in the exact same skill, rewriting what happened 5 minutes after it happens. Watch how that skill gets dressed up as democracy minutes later. Sims stands in front of the Mids cafeteria and announces reforms. The pact gets revised. Every department gets a council seat. Surveillance gets reduced, except for the cameras they decide to keep. It's the illusion of change wrapped around the same closed fist. And underneath the ceremony, the real cracks are already showing. Ed from mining is complaining that the tunnels are collapsing after 300 years of strain. Juliette, with no memory of why this is even a rule, casually asks why nobody's allowed to dig closer to the surface. Nobody in that room can answer her honestly, because the honest answer would blow up everything they just spent the last 10 minutes pretending to reform. And that skill has a bigger boss standing behind it. Late in the episode, the algorithm itself flags Juliette's flickers of memory as a direct threat to something called the safeguard protocol, and orders her medication doubled. Which means the lie about Bernard, the fake reforms in that meeting, and the story, fed to Juliette every single morning, aren't three separate schemes. They're one system, protecting one secret at every level of the silo at once. Here's a moment that's easy to miss if you're not actively hunting for it, and it might be the single most important 5 seconds in the whole episode. During that same council meeting, someone from supply reports back with a routine, throwaway phrase, the kind of line nobody's supposed to think twice about. And hearing it triggers something in Juliette, a flash, a memory of a rolled scroll, a message from a woman named Martha, warning her that the truth was waiting, and that supply was somehow safe. That's not filler dialogue. That's the show proving on camera that the drugs don't have full control. Something from her old life is still alive under the medication, and it surfaces the instant the right word gets said out loud. Hold on to that flash, because by the end of the episode, that exact same idea, a hidden message delivered through something as mundane as food, happens again. Except this time, it's not a memory. It's happening in real time. Which brings us to the ending, the moment this entire episode was quietly building toward. Juliette bites into her soup, finds a hidden capsule, and pulls out a rolled scrap of paper. Instructions: burn this. Flip your bowl upside down if you want the truth. Meet at the marketplace. So who has the access, the motive, and the nerve to smuggle a message directly into the mayor's food? Start with who's already inside the walls of power. Someone in supply is handling every meal that reaches her quarters, and we just watched supply trigger a memory flash minutes earlier. Which is not a coincidence a show like this drops by accident. Someone in IT has the technical means to know exactly when the cameras blink. And somewhere below, an entire faction calling themselves the Outsiders is already sabotaging IT the same day, stealing a suit helmet and hanging a banner that reads simply, "The display is a lie." Here's the theory worth testing going forward. Whoever wrote that note isn't a random sympathizer. It's someone who already knows exactly how deep the deception runs, because they've seen the machinery from the inside. Someone with old loyalty to Juliette from before the drugs, and access nobody would think to double-check. That's a very short list of names, and this episode has already put most of them within arm's reach of her, at least once. And that's the real thread connecting episode 1, start to finish. A cloud in the sky over Iran, 3.5 centuries ago, wiped out a squadron and a woman's memory to protect a secret about how the world actually ended. A note in a bowl of soup right now might be the very first crack in the exact same kind of secret. Different century, same lie. If you think you already know who slipped that note into her soup, put your theory in the comments right now. I genuinely want to see how many of you land on the same name. And if you want the full breakdown of who's really pulling the strings behind the algorithm, and what the safeguard protocol is actually protecting, I already broke it down piece by piece in the video right on your screen. Go watch that one next.